So maybe you're a juggler, or you're a magician, or you've been performing at some birthday parties, and you're wondering if you can make a career out of this. Then this podcast will be of interest to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the main event. All the way from the United Kingdom, direct from Oxford University, and just back from a 10-month tour of Bukit Batok. Please welcome, as seen on TV, the undisputed king of comedy, the legendary superstar, a giant of stage and screen.
All right, was that a bit much? Bit too big, the intro there. Sorry about that. Welcome. This is Ben Matthews. I've been performing as Big Ben in Singapore and Hong Kong for about 20 years. If you want to know more about entertainers, the entertainers who perform at birthday parties, the entertainers you'll see at shopping centres and at festivals and at corporate events, then you've come to the right podcast. This podcast is all about those kind of entertainers who work on the periphery of show business. It's sort of an unknown area, but you can make a decent living, and it's a lot of fun. Today I'm delighted to bring you my interview with the amazing Andy Comic, a wonderful Australian performer who's currently working in Hong Kong. If you want to find more about Andy, you can visit his website. Let's have a look. Well, his company is www.birthdays.hk. And if you want to find out more about me, maybe, my website is www.thebigbenshow.com. Anyway, let's start the interview. Here he is, the amazing Mr. Andy Comic. So should I call you Andy Sillinger or Andy Comic? What do you reckon?
Yeah, Andy Comic is fine for performing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the podcast, should I call you? Should I go, here's Andy Sillinger, or here's Andy Comic? Or?
Andy Comic, I guess.
Andy
if it's
Comic.
just going to be performers.
Yeah.
If that's your aim, yeah. Andy Comic, yeah.
Alrighty. So just briefly then, what if someone's listening? Hopefully someone will listen to this eventually. Briefly, what is it that you do? Because most people have no idea of our industry. So, what is it that you do? Just briefly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, here in Hong Kong, I mainly do kids' parties, which entails a 40-minute show, which is magic juggling, unicycling, and of course my little robot in my show. And then I do 20 minutes of games with the kids. We do like parachute, limbo, tug of war, some dancing games. So normally it's a 1-hour program. Only for birthday parties. Besides that, sometimes some stilt jobs. But I started off, do you want to go back to where I started off? I started off mainly on stilts for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Doing the Fat Brothers, which is the big inflatable suits on stilts. Fabulous Fat Brothers.
Okay.
Which is still going in Melbourne and the UK and Toronto. But
so how did you get started then? Was there any influence from your family or friends, or somebody older who was doing this stuff?
No, I was at university and I wasn't really I didn't have really any plan for university. I was studying computer architecture and physics.
Wow.
And someone showed me how to juggle one day,
Yeah.
and that was it. I was just smitten. I caught the bug, and I
It's
just kept on
strange how many
juggling.
people who study physics are good at juggling.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
It's weird.
they say musicians, mathematicians are musicians, and computer scientists are jugglers.
Ah.
That was the saying that we had And it's true, yeah. A lot of some computer stuff people are into juggling.
Yeah, I noticed that at university.
Yeah.
In the juggling club at university, a lot of the best technical jugglers, they were really good. They studied physics.
Yeah. The guy who used to run the clown club at Monash University, he was the professor for computer science.
There you go. It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Must be the same part of the brain for some reason. You wouldn't have thought it, but it must be the same part of the brain.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started juggling, and I did probably 3 years of solid practice.
Mm.
Um,
This is in Australia.
yeah, in Australia. And then I went on the street after that. When I finished university, I worked for around a year, and at the end of the year, I was doing full time on the street. I was living in like a Christian community at that time. It was just about, we used to share our income and stuff like that.
Okay.
So as far as being having a materialistic goal, I didn't really have one. So I was like, yeah, why don't I just go on the street and do whatever, because the money disappears anyway. So I did about a year. Yeah, I was on the street for about a year, actually, like all the time, almost every day,
Yeah.
just doing the show. And I was doing a big circle show. I was doing an 8-foot unicycle with music. Well, when I say big show, I mean the 8-foot unicycle is often defined as the big show,
Yes.
because you're so tall and you do get quite a lot of people
Yes.
watching you. You may not get as, my hats weren't huge as far as hats means how much money I got, but I was getting big crowds, but I didn't really have that performing skill yet. So obviously it takes quite a long time to be a good performer.
Yeah.
So I was doing that for about a year, and then I started getting some paid jobs. As soon as I could get off the street, actually, I got off as soon as I could. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal, and the culture on the street is a lot different, and it can be a bit intimidating, and people don't want you there because they also want to perform.
Oh, you're
the
talking
same
about
pitch.
the other performers. This is my pitch. This is my slot. You get out of the way. It can be
And
quite
even
tough
back
and
then, I mean, now it's crowded, but back then was also very crowded as well.
Yeah.
Especially in Melbourne, because English-speaking countries in the summer get all the North Americans and some Europeans, and they're all coming down to Australia trying to get some money.
That's
travelling
right,
around.
because a lot of buskers, if you're in Canada, you cannot perform outdoors in
Yeah.
the winter, so you go to somewhere like Australia and
Yeah.
perform there, where it's summer.
So they all come flooding in. But I mean, it was good. I saw a lot of really good acts on the street.
This is like
I learned a
the
lot.
early 90s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 88. Yeah. About 92.
Yeah.
And then I was with the stilts. I was developing this character on stilts, a big fat inflatable suit. Actually, when I say character, I mean I had an idea for a costume.
Mm.
The character was to follow, I guess. So I did that, and that was very successful. Immediately I was doing, at least 3 gigs a week.
These are the fat boys?
The Fat Boy, yeah, Fabulous
Boy.
Fat Brothers. Me and another guy called Dave. And we did that for, forever. It seemed like forever.
So you had
Until around 2000,
Yeah,
yeah.
so these are you have the stilts, and you got this huge costume that's inflating this with a fan inside it, so it inflates.
Yeah.
And you look like this huge fat boy, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Huge,
yeah.
8 foot high.
Yeah,
fat-
and we had
fat
music
boy.
inside the suits, and we would walk around and do some, some songs, some routines. We'd do little dances. So we'd have it like around about a 5 or 10 minute show.
Mm.
So it was very successful, and it was a very good act. And Australia was the right market for it because there's a lot of festivals there.
Oh.
And we did the corporate stuff and then shopping centres, and then the big fairs would be like the Sydney show, the Perth show, the Brisbane show. You'd be there for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
We did the Olympics. Every year we would do the AFL parade for the football down there.
Oh, yes.
We would do the Grand Prix, and we would do the Australian Open. So it's okay, Brian, you can leave.
We'll talk to Brian another week. That's Brian. Stay tuned for the next podcast.
Stay there for so that we had this regular gigs every year,
Mm.
and it was great.
So how long did you do that for? It seemed like years. Was it-
Probably around with Dave around 6 years,
Wow.
and then I went to Canada for a year, and I came back and did it for probably another few years.
In Canada, you were doing.
In Canada, well, I had plans of what I'll do in Canada.
Oh, okay.
What I actually did was completely different. I thought I would just go there as the successful guy from Melbourne
Oh yeah.
and do the same act, and it just didn't happen. There was no work in Vancouver.
Oh.
Number one, they found the act very offensive because it was called the Fabulous Fat Brothers.
Yeah.
And I remember the first agent I went to, she's like, "This? Are you serious? Do you actually get work for this?"
Oh.
I said, "Yeah,
my
all
gosh.
the time."
They were too politic.
Yeah, very
correct.
different culture. It really shocked me. It's the first time I really thought, "Wow, really? I didn't."
That's-
So it was renamed as the Aussie Giants,
Yes.
and then I think it renamed again after that because I left it there. As the Aussie Giants, we still hardly got any work.
Okay.
I think I did around maybe 3 jobs in the year. We got none. We got the Whistler Festival. That was probably the biggest job of the year. We got a shopping centre in North Vancouver, and we got the Bowen Island Festival. Which now that I remember the Bowen Island Festival, there was this kid he just kept on hassling us, wanting to push us over, and I was trying to run away from him, and he just would stop. And eventually I lifted my stilt up, and he ran into it, and it got him right in the stomach, yeah.
Oh no.
But I didn't really care. And he was down like a sack of spuds, and there was a big crowd around him. And it was written about in the local paper,
Oh
the
no.
Bowen Island, and they said they were very impressed by the way they handled a troublesome child.
Oh, it's good.
By
You got
kicking
good
him
press.
in the gut,
You
yeah.
got good press.
I didn't mean to kick him. I just meant to kick him in the shin or something. Because on stilts you have to, especially in the Fat Brothers, because you kind of like a big balloon. You have to be a little bit aggressive sometimes if people get rough with you, because they will push you over.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to break your hand or arm or something like that.
Yeah.
So a few warnings, this and that. I try to keep people a little bit close to me, because then I can fall on top of them if they try to get a bit rough. Because we're doing these events like the Olympics or the Grand Prix, or we did Crown Casino for about 3 months.
Okay.
Working up until midnight. And you get some real yobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming along, and we've been pushed over many times.
Really?
Yeah,
Many times. Oh,
yeah,
my
if
God.
that's all you do on stilts, trust me, you get pushed over. We did a lot of nightclub work, and none of us got injured. But outside Crown Casino,
None of us.
nightclub-
There's still 2 of you.
Yeah, just me and Dave. Yeah, outside the nightclub, I got tackled really hard. I was okay.
God.
But yeah, like seriously, like boom, straight down. What else? Yeah, no, there was lots of times. Sometimes I've fallen over, just the ground's so uneven. The Australian Open one year, they still got caught in like a weird little great overhang, and I did a lean-to effect. And
Oh
everyone
my
was just
goodness.
like, couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I really I'm going over it, and all of a sudden like, oh no.
Like
no.
Michael Jackson
Yeah, and I
in,
just
in
came
that
back
famous
again.
movie.
Got out of the grate and walked off. Everyone was like, "What the hell?" Is this?"
Smooth criminal.
Yeah,
Smooth
exactly.
criminal lean.
Exactly. Just like
Defying
that.
gravity.
Yeah, I remember Dave going, "How did you not fall over?"
Brilliant.
Yeah, but the stilt act was good, and we eventually kind of started to self-destruct. I've been working with the same guy for many years. I just needed something different, so I went to Canada, and there I didn't do much at all. I ended up working in a door factory.
A door factory.
Yeah, we used to spray paint doors. Yeah, so I was in charge of getting them on the rack, I think, and then we'd go through a conveyor belt, and there was a guy in the booth who'd spray paint them. So we did that, and at the time, I brought a really cheap RV, and I was living in the RV.
Okay.
Yeah, because I moved out of this house, because it was a little bit of space in between. I was going to travel across Canada, and I was seeing this girl, and then I came to Hong Kong for a job.
Mm.
And this is how Hong Kong came into the picture.
Oh.
I came to Hong Kong on a job by an agent called Rachel, who unfortunately passed away from cancer now. And she brought me over. I was working in Taiku for like 3 months with this guy Dave again.
City Plaza?
City Plaza, yeah.
It's
So
a big
working at
shopping centre. So they
3
have a big
months, and
stage.
and when I got back to Vancouver, to get my girlfriend, she was my girlfriend, she started seeing someone else. I didn't really know that. I found out through a friend of mine. So so then I kind of ditched plans, and I was working at the door factory for a few more months. But then I thought, Hong Kong seems like an easy score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Jan and Zanny while I was working at that particular job.
Yes.
And I became friends with Jan, and I left some stuff with him, and I said, I'm going to come back here. So by the time that job had finished, I decided to come back.
Jan and Zanny are two of the other big 4 or 5 performers here in Hong Kong, and hopefully we'll be interviewing them later on in this series of podcasts. Let's get back to Andy.
I decided to come back to Hong Kong, and it was kind of the right timing, because I look at Melbourne now. There's the circus school that just opened up, and now it's 10 years later. The circus school is turning out 30 acts a year or something, and there's too many people, too many performers, and it's tough to make a decent living. It just seems like there's a lot of performers there, and one of my main guys back in Melbourne, Ron Gallagher, who was like one of the big guys back then. He's not really doing as much anymore. He's become a marriage celebrant.
Okay.
So for him to kind of be pushed out of the industry means, well, I don't have a chance.
So if he's pushed out, he was really good at it.
Yeah. And there's no end of talent over there. It's a viable profession. But in Hong Kong, of course, it's not really a viable profession, and there's not too many people. Out of 8 million people, there's not too many people who are like, I'm going to be a full-time performer. There's no circus schools here. There's nothing official sanctioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're a white guy and you're coming over here, it's hard to get some sort of work permit or something. It's hard.
Yeah.
So the people who are here, we've got a nice niche.
Yeah.
Nice niche.
Yeah, it's good.
All right.
So far, so good. Yeah.
So far, so good.
The last few years have been good.
Okay, so how did you make the transition from performer? You're still a performer, but also turning it from performing into a business, because you're also a businessman.
Yeah. So the businesses we have, it's around about.
And feel free to shamelessly promote the name of your business.
It's around about, in terms of income, we're probably a third of our business is birthday parties, and 2/3 is corporate market. So when I first came here, I was pushing my act around to a lot of different places and companies, and they just don't want to know you.
I know that feeling.
It's a totally different culture here. Back in Australia, you could just ring up someone and be like, "Yeah, this is what we do." "Oh, okay, we'll hire you direct." We used to get that all the time. But here, big businesses want to deal with another business. And I remember particular one job in Hong Kong, and I turned up, and she said, I had it in my diary. I came back from Australia. I rang up the client the day before.
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, I just want to double check. You inquired about a job. Is that still going ahead?" And they said, "Oh, yes. Yeah, I told them my name and everything.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, yes. Yeah, that's still going ahead. Yeah. Okay. So what's the address and where do I go?" So the next day I rock up, and there's Arabella's at the party, which is Rory. He was the performer there. And I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Andy. So, you got 2 of us, yeah?" She's like, "Oh, no, it's been a mistake, I said, "I called up yesterday, and I just checked because you asked me a while ago, just double check." And she said, "Yeah, I got mixed up who you were." And I'm like, "Listen, you're going to have to pay us both."
Yeah.
And she just absolutely refused. And then she just came down and said, "Look, he's from a company and you're not, so I'm going to keep him because otherwise they're going to come after me."
Right.
That was their attitude. Yeah, if you're from a company, we can't mess around with you.
Okay.
But if you're direct, then
so they somehow managed to book Rory through Arabella's and you just as an individual.
Yeah.
And they decided as Rory's part of a company, we're going to go with him.
They refused to cancel Rory. Yeah. Even though back then, it was a long time ago now, he was just starting off.
Yeah.
And I had an established show. So I told him that. I said, "Look, you're not going to get much of a show from this guy. He's okay, but he's just going to play games with the kids."
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was it. So, but I started the company first of all to try and channel jobs to myself.
Yeah.
Because I thought, if I cast my net out, I can catch clients, and I can start picking what jobs I want to do,
Yeah.
and they're going to be more interested in dealing with me, if I've got a company. So then I just started up the website, and I just figured that would probably bring in business. So that, and which was true actually. So I just started up. I decided to get 100 acts on there and put it out there because no one in Hong Kong was doing an agency.
Right.
Nothing. They were all PR agencies or production houses who you could ring up and be like, "Oh, can you get us this?" Yes, we can. But as far as photos and videos and all that stuff, and still now there's not a lot of people who have really embraced that concept. But in Australia, everyone's got this website with every act in Melbourne on it, and you can just pick and choose it.
So there wasn't a talent agency. There wasn't a website which would have a list of performers in Hong Kong.
But saying that, Hong Kong is not an agency market in the same way that they would prefer to have, the sound, the decorations, and the venue all organised by one company for these big jobs. So we rarely touch on these really big jobs. We normally get hired through another production house for those ones. It's very rare they'll ever come direct to us unless they've got something really small going on and they just need some dancers or, a band or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a business, but Hong Kong is a different market from Australia, where you could be, if we were in Australia doing the same business without competition, in that respect, we would be doing a lot better.
Right.
But here, we're not doing bad. Just the gigs just roll along every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I can almost pay my rent just on the shows you give me.
Really?
No, it's just like I could probably
You could pay a rent.
I could pay a rent, and I could probably just about eke out a living just on the shows you give me.
Yeah.
I earn a little bit more than a domestic helper. But no, I earn a fair bit more actually.
Yeah. Just
All
straight
right.
by.
All right, so let's talk about some of the specifics of the show. So you say you still do a lot of birthday parties yourself performing.
Yeah. I probably
All
do about 4 a week.
So how do you deal with a birthday party? Say there's someone listening who's just starting out and they're thinking, "Oh, my first show is going to be a birthday party booking." How do you deal with a birthday party?
Okay, well, mainly is in respect, if you want to look at how I worked on the street, the first thing is that you have to organise your audience really well, and that can be difficult in Hong Kong because the parents are also there in the room. You can't organise the parents, yeah. And if they're loud, if they're loud and they're talking, you just got to stand there and just take it, yeah. But so I can be reasonably aggressive in trying to organise the crowd exactly the way I want it. Where they sit down, who sits where, and get the troublemakers up the back.
Wow.
So that they can't really reach out and grab your stuff. You work it out pretty quick. But the main thing is, with a birthday party, you have to warm the kids up. So you come in, you have to establish some boundaries, unfortunately. Yeah. Unless you're like a roving clown where you can do whatever you want and the kid's like, "Oh, this guy's crazy, he's so much fun." And I like those kind of jobs sometimes. But with birthday parties, the only way you're going to be able to do a proper show is to establish boundaries. The kids have to sit down, they have to pay attention, they can't stand up, they can't grab your stuff, they can't push your music.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to, you got to ride that line between being the teacher, kind of the authority figure or the parent, and being the clown.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a bit like doing stand-up comedy for a drunken crowd.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the kids, they've been to 3 birthday parties already that weekend, and they think they can do anything. They sit down and they start rooting around in your bag when you're not looking.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have zero respect. Sometimes they have great respect, and they do respect you as a performer. But sometimes they're all over you if you're not careful. If you're too friendly when you start out and in the first 5 minutes, and you give them too much freedom, then the next 55 minutes is going to be really hard work. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, look, some shows are impossible.
Yeah.
You just got to write them off and be like, "There's no way I can control this crowd without physically restraining someone." So you just got to. Yeah, I've had a couple of shows like that where there's no way, the kids are just completely off their heads. But yeah, normally I get the kids down and I have a routine where I ask them a lot of questions and get them talking and get them to know me, because some kids are quite shy and young and they might be really scared. So I'll be doing, there's a few questions like who's here, who's not here, like hands up. And, I'm here for the, because Tim is getting married or something like that. Yes. Some, a few of these jokes. Who wants to see some magic? Who wants to see juggling? Who wants my head to explode during the show? Oh, okay, you want... And a whole lot of stuff like that. So then, you got to warm them up to begin with. Now, I'm a big fan of having music in the show.
Yeah.
Because the kids are kind of conditioned to watching television, and it's that kind of like when the music starts, they kind of sit there and be like, oh, this is a routine I can just watch.
Yeah.
A bit like Cabaret. So I have music in my show, but I've taken it another step. I've got my music box becomes a robot.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, which is a big part of my act. He does like 3 routines in the show, and it took me around 6 years to work on this robot. On and off, of course. But when I first came to Hong Kong, I had a prototype within a couple of years. And but anyway, so the robot, he always interrupts, and he's basically a fuck up in the show, yeah. So he starts off by just being a speaker with the LED light, and he's got a little TV screen above that, a matrix screen, and he's got little eyes that pop up. So the kids get used to that in the show, like, oh, no, not yet, Freddy, no, that's his name. Not yet, Freddy, and then he starts interrupting all the time, saying, welcome to the Andy Comic Show, and not yet, Freddy.
Yeah, I've seen it. I love it.
Yeah, and then halfway through the show, the box actually opens by itself, and he comes out of the box. Yeah. So it's another dimension to the robot of like, oh, he actually lives in the box, but he can also have just the this little screen on. But anyway, so in the show, I start off with I do a hat routine. I do 3 chopsticks with a glass of water on the end. There's a plate.
It's a balancing thing in your mouth. The chopsticks are in your mouth.
Yeah.
You're balancing it, yeah.
Yeah. I do some juggling. I do some ball juggling. I do some club juggling. I do 2 magic tricks. The colour changing silk, which the kid holds one and I hold one and just follow me, and theirs always makes a mistake, and we do 2 different routines in that routine of like he can't make it change colour. And then then mine disappears, and then at the end, his silks combine into one silk, which is half red, half yellow. And he started off with a red silk. I gave him another silk in the show to help him out. So he's got red and yellow silk, and in the end, they joined together somehow through a change bag. And then I do unicycling at the end, and I do another routine I do is ping pong balls, which is probably my most well-rounded routine.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's really good.
Yeah, so it starts off with a balloon. I blow it up, make a little ball in the balloon. I suck that off, and it becomes a ping pong ball. I put them in my mouth, and I spit them up in the air. And in juggling, I juggle 2 in my mouth at the same time. And the last bit is on unicycle, juggling clubs, and spinning a ball at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the finale. And in that, Freddy comes out 3 times. His main routine is Happy Birthday Mary, which he comes out of the box and says, I just want to say happy birthday to Mary.
Yeah.
And he goes back in, and I'm like, it's not Mary's birthday. He comes out
Yeah.
again. No, okay. So this whole routine goes on for a while.
Yeah, that's the one I remember. I loved it.
Yeah. So, but now what you probably haven't seen is he sings the birthday song, and the name of the kid comes up on a screen at the front.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so that he does get it right in the end. But in between that, he burps happy birthday. He he does the song, that is. And at the end, the other routine, like he goes to sleep at the end, which is very funny. Just as I'm about to do my finale, he starts snoring, and the kids
brilliant.
love that. And I hit him on the head, and he goes, "Get off me, you crazy man!" And the kids love that. And then right at the end, he comes out of the box again, and he says, "Thanks for watching the Andy Comic Show." Blah blah blah. But yeah, as far as the tricks go, and what the intent of them is, I do some skill stuff for the adults, but it's always got some stupid little gag in for the kids.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much to put together a birthday party. Like it's better to talk about the mistakes I made at the beginning. Probably the biggest mistake I made when I started birthday parties, which I only did when I came to Hong Kong. Before that, I was doing the stilts. Yeah, and the stilts was always walk around kind of roving act, and
Yes.
it was completely different, and it was a big act, big show with the music and everything. So the birthday parties, the first thing, and also coming from the street, is that the show is not about me. which is the first thing I used to think. I'm getting booked for the show. I'm the act. Everyone should be watching me.
Yes.
The photographer walking around the venue, he should be taking pictures of me. What he's doing behind me, taking pictures of the kid.
Yes.
What's going on here? You know? If everyone would just be quiet and listen to my show.
Yeah, you have to kind of lower your ego a bit, don't you?
Yeah, it's not about me at all. It's all about the kid.
Yeah.
And you just have to... that was my big mistake. You know, you'd be doing a show and some kid would come up with a birthday present for the kid. And, okay, everything stops. And you just have to understand that, you know, it's all about the kid and it's nothing about you. And you're just there to make the day a bit better.
Wow.
Yeah, so you just kind of have to pause sometimes in the show, or I know performers and I've seen them who don't get it, who don't really get that.
Right.
Story. Yeah, and it also another thing is, parents always make the mistake is I want to book a magician, for instance. They don't want to book a magician. They want to book someone who's going to look after their kids and entertain them for that period of time.
Yeah, and it's normally an hour, right, for a birthday party. It used to be the standard.
Yeah, exactly. So it used to. So the parents always make that mistake of like, oh, my kid's really into magic, and you just be like. So I take any job that comes along, and I always say, oh yeah, magic, yeah, that's no problems, yeah. But knowing, in fact, I really don't do much magic at all, and knowing that this kid has not really seen good magic before.
Yeah.
If you did proper magic, they're going to be like, what the hell happened? And the kid cannot follow proper routine of magic.
Yeah. It's
got to be really simple. But because the kids doing magic is completely different. Kids don't follow the flow of the story. They just want to see a quick magic trick. And everything to them is magic. How did that work? Oh, it's just magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no actually explanation for this, except for some of the older kids. They'll try to figure out how it's done or something like that. But the main thing was, doing kids' parties, it's just about the kid.
Yeah.
So you try to tailor the show around the kid. And I remember when I started, I didn't even get the birthday kid out. I would be like, oh, hands up, who wants to help me out here? And I would have no concept of like, oh, it's Jimmy's birthday.
I think I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I think I did the same thing.
I would just forget to be like, oh, we're here for a birthday party. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do the show and then play some games. Not like, oh, we're here for Jimmy.
Right.
So I would, but now, the birthday kid comes out. The first routine I do with an audience member, I always get the birthday kid
Yes.
out. Yeah, and I always try to warm up the kid. I do a thing where I say, when I say go, put your hand up. I need someone to come out the front here. When I say go, put your hand up as fast as you can. Ready, set, snowman, something like that. I'll make a joke of it. And I want to see, it's a joke, but I'm trying to work out if the birthday kid is willing to come out.
Right.
Okay, if he's not willing to come out, or she, then I change my tactic and I'll just say, hey, who's your best friend? And I'll get the best friend out and I'll say, hey, listen, why don't you come out as well?
Yes.
So you get them both up at the same time. Because, you have to kind of suss them out because it's really important the birthday kid comes up.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't happen. Yeah.
This probably shouldn't be about me, the podcast, but I've had a little story. Every now and then I do a silent show because I loved Charlie Chaplin when I was a kid. So every now and then I do a silent show. And I remember doing a silent show for a birthday party, and I realised because I'd been silent, I hadn't found out who the birthday kid was, and I was silent, so I couldn't ask. It was really hard. I was trying to silently figure out which one's the birthday kid.
Yeah, how do you do that? That's a tough score, yeah. How would you? Yeah. Yeah. That's...
No, you have to find out. Yeah, so when I arrive, I'm always one of the first questions is, "Hi, I'm Ben. Which one's the birthday kid?"
Yeah.
That one. And sometimes even then I forget during the show because sometimes they're wearing the same T-shirts.
Yeah, I get it mixed up too. Yeah, it's that cliche, Asian thing sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Which Asian kid was it?
Yeah, you have to take a mental note sometimes. Like purple shorts or something.
That's right.
Yeah, they do costume changes sometimes though, yeah. So trying to get the kid out, and then either them and their best friend. So then I do a couple of other routines in the show. If the birthday kid wants to come out, in the second routine, I'll often say, "Hey, listen, I'll get you out next time. I'll get one of your friends this time." If they really insist, then I just let them.
Yeah,
because it's their
birthday.
day. Yeah, and at the end, I get them out again. And Freddie, I get them out. They come out at least twice in my show, and then at the end, they come up for the big curtain call bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone gives them a big clap, and Freddie comes out and says, "Yeah." But yeah, I used to forget the names, or sometimes the pronunciation.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I've had people come up and go, "No, it's not Ella, it's Ellie or something like that." Like, oh. And then I'd be like, "Oh man, it's so hard to remember," or something. Yeah, because we do a lot of Indian parties in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, the names are unusual. We don't know how to say it. Even when you read it, you don't know how to pronounce it. Sometimes.
Well, even the Chinese parties, yeah, if they use their real Chinese name,
it's very hard to pronounce for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two questions. First of all, do you improvise at all in your birthday? How much do you have? How much do you kind of take you have your show, your regular standard show, and do you ever just sort of wander off on a tangent in your act?
I never improvise, but my show is completely made out of improvisation.
Right.
So yeah, I do my show, and then something will happen, and I'll do something and say, "Oh, that works."
Yeah.
So you'll slot that new joke in. Yeah. So I guess in that respect, it's all improvised at some stage. But yeah, and my show is just hardly do anything different in the show.
And also because you've got a robot which has it's the recording.
Yeah.
It's a recording. So once you press play, you've got to time yourself those parts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be saying something. If you improvise, the robot's going to do its pre-recorded answer to what it's supposed to say. Yeah.
I have to quickly press pause. It happens sometimes. Then you'll just go, "Alright." Yeah. So yeah, I just sometimes I press pause, or the robot. The routines, a lot of them are structures on what I call the interrupt.
Yeah.
Which is where the robot actually interrupts me. So I don't need to specifically be like...
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so you're just talking to a joke and then boom, it'll interrupt you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well done.
So, so he interrupts me. Most of the routines, he'll just interrupt me. Like when he falls asleep. Like when he wants to say happy birthday, Mary.
Right.
Like when he says, "Welcome to the Andy Comics Show."
Yeah.
So it's all like, "No, not yet, or Freddie, be quiet." But once he's out of the box doing his little routine, then we have to actually interact or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of my show, nothing's really.
But of course,
improvised.
one of the good things I found about a birthday party is every year there's a new audience being born.
Yeah.
So you don't actually need to change your act as much as say if you're doing a corporate show for the same client each year, they're going to want something different.
Yeah.
But for the birthday parties, you're getting a whole new audience is constantly being born, and the older audience is getting to be 8 or 9 or 10, and they won't book you anymore. So you can do the same thing again and again. That's fine. It's not a bad thing, and it gets really good. I mean, I've seen your show, and it's like, wow, this guy's. I better improve my own show.
Thank you. This show's good, man. I really like your show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Parents always ring up and say, "We had you last year. We want you back, and can you change the show this year?" I always take the job, and I never ever have changed the show, and I've never been called out on it.
Yeah.
Because the kids, number one, sometimes they don't remember.
Yeah.
But number two, they want to see it again.
Yeah.
Kids watch the same movie every day for
do.
like a month.
They do, yeah.
They want to see doing the same gags.
There was that TV program, the Teletubbies, and the big thing about the Teletubbies TV program is the Teletubbies would go again and again, and they just loop the entire scene that they just played.
Yeah.
The kids like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, they just want to see it.
Kids are
tell
fine.
parents that they want something different. Like your kid is never going to remember from last year. But then saying that, sometimes you see the same kids on the same day, and that can be a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. They know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they can mess things up.
Yeah, it's weird when you go to some random location.
Did you answer your phone? You right?
No, it's okay.
All right.
You can edit this out, yeah.
Oh, maybe we'll keep it on. Who knows? All right. And my other question was, do you have a problem with birthday parties being an hour long? So I find a half-hour show, that's great. I can keep in attention for half an hour. But birthday parties, they want you there for a whole hour. Have you ever dealt with that? Or is it maybe not been a factor for you? Maybe just from my history, my way of performing.
Oh, you mean
Well, I was doing half-hour stage shows
Oh, I see.
before I started doing
And now you
birthday
have to do
parties.
games, yeah.
And then it was like, okay, they want me for an hour. Okay, so I'll do half an hour. First of all, it was half an hour of stage show and then half an hour of balloons. I found that a bit boring, so I did half an hour of show and then half an hour of games. But was it no problem?
Yeah. No, that was It was when I came here. I was kind of a bit weird to do a whole hour. Yeah, but I understand it from the parents' point of view. They want the kids to just be occupied
For you? Yeah.
because they start going crazy. Yeah, and some parties have nothing in them except food and you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. That's the only time where they're doing something is eating or watching a show. So the tough one sometimes is the 2-hour parties.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it's kind of like towards the end of the day, you're kind of like, well, yeah, the money will be good, so I might as well take it. And it's just, it's not as bad as it sounds because the parents have often got, there's the birthday cake. 2 hours is a long time. They've got to do the birthday cake during your show, during your time somewhere.
And you
then-
might find that they booked you right at the start of the party with not even all the guests are there.
Yeah,
so
that happens
it's a
all the
slow
time.
start.
all the time.
Well,
yeah.
well, if you're there for 2 hours, the first 20 minutes can be just sort of meeting and greeting
Yeah.
people as they come in. So that can fill some time.
Yeah, exactly. But because I hadn't really done birthday parties before, I didn't know what the system was, and I started doing some through Arabella's,
Yeah.
and she just said, "Yeah, you do some games." So I'm like, okay. So I had, back then I just had a box of tricks, just like you,
Yeah.
just to bring along, and a couple of games, and just used to be like, "Oh man, this is going to be tough." But I remember the first show I did in Hong Kong on stage that was an hour long.
Yeah.
And man, I couldn't sleep for like a week. I was so stressed. But the client was like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Yeah, you just do whatever." And I didn't understand that really some people just do whatever on stage in Hong Kong. You know, they're just up there twisting some balloons and just talking and
Wow.
just doing nothing. You know, it's like,
So
right.
this wasn't a birthday party. This was an hour-long stage show.
Hour-long stage show at Sun Yulong Plaza in
And
Yulong.
they just wanted you on stage for an hour.
Just did every trick I could think of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just repeat it, and I did a whole hour. And this is through Rachel that I mentioned before. And I was really surprised you can get away with stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good link. So you're saying that was a stage show in a shopping centre.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the more corporate work, the work in shopping centres, the work at company dinners? How do you approach that kind of stuff?
I used to do a lot more. When I first came here, I did a lot more corporate. Now, number one, I don't get offered many. I'm not sure. And number two, I don't really want them.
Oh.
Yeah. So I do a few, but man, they're really tough here. Basically, the best way to approach a corporate gig in Hong Kong is to think that you are just on stage as something that people can watch you as an optional extra to whatever they're doing.
Oh, really? Wow, really?
Yeah, because I just find some gigs you get, like people are walking around toasting the tables. You know,
Yes.
the boss does that. Everyone's talking. Some of the smaller venues, like maybe the Conrad Hotel, that
Yeah.
has a nice little ballroom where everyone's going to watch you.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, look, try to get as much cabaret style in as possible.
Right.
Because if you need volunteers, man, it's tough here.
Yes, I
It
agree.
can be tough, yeah.
And is there any MC warming up the crowd on party games before? No, is it just here's the entertainer, up you go, and
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know what they
cold.
do before because I just rock up and get on stage.
right?
But yeah, they do some events. Some of the best events I've had here are through a company called Argo, and they do more of the working class events.
Yeah.
They do the leisure services stuff as well. And so you'd be in some big local restaurant out in like Chun Mun or something,
Mm.
and they're always good. They're always like, oh, there's some white guy on stage doing some tricks. Yeah, let's watch him. And
Yes. Yes. I
but
love
then
it.
of course those restaurants are painfully tight. Yeah. to
Yeah.
get in
No
there.
space.
Yeah, no space. The ceiling's
Ceiling's
really low.
really low.
And sometimes it's like an L shape, and like the people around the corner
They can't see. Yes.
can't see, and yeah. But that's I did a lot more of that in Australia. But you know, in Australia, towards the end, I was just known for my stilt act,
Yeah.
so there wasn't a lot of stage work to be done. But in my corporate show, I decided a couple of years ago that it's pretty much the same as my kids' show.
Wow.
except for the silly gags. You
Right.
know, maybe I wouldn't do, like a giant thumb trick. I definitely don't do the robot. But my audience participation, I spin 3 balls
Yeah.
on someone. That's exactly the same. The silk trick, exactly the same. Pretty much I just cut my show down. I still do 3 balls and 5 balls. It's relatively the same. I just don't do. I do a lot more music.
Yeah, it
But
can be
pretty much
because
the tricks are the same. Yeah.
it's variety entertainment and circus
Yeah.
entertainment, and that does appeal to the whole wide range
Yeah.
of ages.
Exactly. So with the 3 ball routine, I get the kid up and we do like a rocky jog on the spot and some rocky warm ups and then
Yeah, you
spin
play the
ball.
rocky music in the background.
Yeah, and with the adults, exactly the same, and it works
Looks
just as well.
fine.
Yeah, everyone's just laughing. I do the 6-foot unicycle for the adult parties,
All right.
and the kids' party's just a little tiny one here.
I've gone the same route.
Yeah.
Eventually, took me
Yeah,
a while
yeah.
to realise it.
Yeah. I mean, we used to do the big one on the kids' parties, yeah?
Well, I started out doing stage shows in Singapore. That was my thing, stage shows, and we did a big unicycle or a big trick on a big stage. So, so when I came to Hong Kong and started doing birthday parties, that's what I had. That was my act. So, but after about 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, I think I kept it going for about 5 years, carrying with a big unicycle, and I thought I can't carry this around. The venues were too small, the ceiling would be too low. In some of the venues for the birthday parties, and then I hadn't got anything to offer if I did get a stage show, anything bigger than what I was doing at the birthday party. So I wanted to have something bigger for my stage show. So yeah, I decided to use a small unicycle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass to carry stuff around, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So how do you deal with transport?
Yeah, okay, well, I'm on a motorcycle. I've got
Amazing.
I got like a scooter with a massive box on the back.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and everything fits in. Everything, the case sits, because it's a scooter, sits between my legs.
Yeah. So Andy can actually fit a little unicycle, his entire show, his sound system, his
Yeah.
robot, everything in a big box on the back of a motor scooter.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
A scooter, yeah. Even when it's raining, I mean, actually, especially when it's raining, it makes me, I still ride the scooter when it's raining, because it's even harder to get transport.
Yeah.
But it means I can take jobs without worrying about, because I know a lot of people are like, man, I got to get out of here. There's no way I can get to the next job in
Yeah.
time.
Well, I mean, this is one of my biggest stresses for me. The past 2 weekends, especially last weekend when it was raining, it was really hard. I spent most of my energy trying to get from one show to the next.
Yeah.
And I prepared really early. I was trying to book my favourite minivan drivers, but they weren't free. I was trying to book a minivan for 6 hours, but no one wanted to do it. Trying to book a private car, but they cost a fortune.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
man.
it's hard, and I had to do it though, because there was no way I could. I knew the venues were pretty empty of taxis, especially when it was raining. So if I had 45 minutes to get to the next show, and I had to have something ready to drive me there, it's hard.
Yeah.
So I guess scooter's great.
Yeah, I had my daughter came to a show last week, and afterwards we had to get a taxi home. Couldn't get home, man. It's just awful. I just like, oh man, I hate getting taxis. Just never one around when you need it. And then when you don't need it, there's 20 waiting in some taxi stand somewhere, yeah?
And you're completely self-contained. Your show, when you get to a venue, you don't need to borrow a microphone. You've got everything there.
I don't have a microphone in the box. But,
Oh, that's right. You don't.
Yeah,
Your
I
voice is
probably
good.
could. I find it a little bit. Sometimes I really wish I had, but it is a different vibe when you have a microphone. I feel, rather than like close contact. But yeah, sometimes, man. But if you need a microphone, then obviously the job is you probably didn't charge enough if it's that big, yeah. And you're probably talking over the top of everyone. But really loud anyway, yeah. I don't know if it'll really work because the robot has the speaker on it.
Right.
Yeah, it'd break an illusion for me.
Yeah,
Because
right.
my voice coming out the robot.
Yeah. Yes.
But the kids really think the robot's alive.
Yeah.
And they always want to see him afterwards, and they're always knocking on his box, and they're always trying to rip his arms off. It has a couple of fake latches on the top that look like that's how you open the box.
Oh.
So that's why the kids can never open the box because they're getting the wrong ones.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm self-contained, so I just rock up. I've got everything. The robot has batteries and everything.
How about for when you get a corporate show? Would you be how self-contained would you be there, or would you rely on them having things you could use?
Pretty much every show I go to, I'd have a music box with me.
Yeah.
And I find it easier to just say, hold up a microphone to my music box.
Yes.
Unless it's some really...
Yeah, I've used that system before.
Yeah. And if I think it's kind of a high class kind of joint where they're not going to have a music box on stage, I don't want to. Or they've got like a team of sound guys there who are like, yeah, dude, I can do my job. Yeah. I have a wireless Wizardry MP3 player, which is a really long range remote control MP3 player. So yeah, and it fades out. And I got that after a job in Hong Kong where the sound guy just completely messed up.
Oh, no.
I was like, you play these tracks. I said, I wrote them down. You play track 1, then you play track 3. I can see it's... I thought, man, this is all the guy's got to do, yeah?
Yes.
Play track 1, then when I say stop it. And then play track 3, when I say stop it. And this is because it's my kids' show and I'm cutting things out of my show for this adult
Yes.
part. And so he got confused.
Oh.
And halfway through the show, he's playing all the wrong songs and he comes up to me on stage. Which track do you want?
Oh.
Like, you know what? I had to look at my list, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the number. And it's like, fuck. You know, you cannot rely on these people to press that button correctly.
Yeah.
Ah, man. Just don't rely on it. And the other rule I always have, don't get on stage unless your music's playing. That is just the worst.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes, me too.
Because all the time, I had a job in Australia once and it was a school show. It was packed auditorium. It was a proper auditorium. And I spoke to the guy afterwards and I ran out on stage. Hey, everyone, thanks very much. And, you know, and he's meant to be like bang. And he's just there like talking to someone. I can see him.
Oh, yes.
And I'm trying to get his attention, yeah? And he's just not paying attention.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for anybody.
Could have punched that guy.
I say that. I say, play the music, then I'll go on stage.
Yeah,
I say
exactly.
that all the time.
Do not go on stage with that music playing because it's a clusterfuck, yeah?
I don't really know the solution. What I do is I just give them a CD and I just say, play it. Yeah, don't stop. And even then they'll sometimes stop.
Yeah, right.
But not my thing is that I give them a CD, I say, play it. When I hear the music, I go on stage. And I just want them to play it. And I sort of, some bits are quite choreographed, especially at the start of the CD. But basically there's about 35 minutes of music on the CD. And after about 15 minutes, the choreographed bit will stop. And then I'll have something slightly interlude-y music, which is where I do my talkie, my audience stuff. And it's just playing and playing and playing, hopefully. And then towards the end, as it gets to 25 minutes, the music gets kind of louder, finale music, and I just I was trying to get ready for the big finale. And I might have a few false endings as well, so that if I'm going inside a giant balloon and it bursts, then it'll go ba-dum 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 and start building up again for another 2 minutes. And I know that I can. So I just basically tell them play it, and I'll just sort of improvise in the middle of the show. Just listening to the music, thinking, okay, this is going. The music. I'm not sure about this bit of music, so I better do something like this now. But it still goes wrong. Sometimes when I start talking, they'll press stop, and then I've got no music for the finale.
Yeah, that would be crap. So you can't really improvise a lot in your show, then, yeah?
No, I can quite a lot because the first 10 minutes is kind of choreographed, almost like a dance routine. My juggling. And everything is quite tightly choreographed. It's the same thing that I do in birthday parties normally. And then the music will stop. That music will end. But there'll be interlude music, and I'm doing talking over it, and I can do whatever I want really. Like in Cyberport in 2012, I did half an hour show where I didn't talk at all, and I just listened to the music, and I just started creating. I kind of knew how the music went, so my juggling and clowning around moves sort of ended up being in time with the music, and hopefully it looked sort of good.
Yeah.
But it was fairly improvised. Just okay. I listen to the music. It's a bit like when you go to a disco when you're a nightclub and you're just dancing away to the music, and you kind of know how the music's going, and you do this move in time to that music. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work though.
Yeah, okay. Wow. So one constant music playing.
But you can't have a lot of the really precise cues, like for you when you'd go for a boom and stuff, da 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 da. Unless even then you could have something. I could play something like "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," that dun 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 boom boom boom,
Okay.
and then I know I've got a minute to get ready for something else, like could be Rocky or whatever. That's what I do.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But it's not easy.
It's hard, yeah.
I can't enjoy it. Alright, where do you get new ideas? That's too out of the blue. There you go. Not ready for that one.
New ideas. Well, the main thing I've worked on the last couple of years is my robot.
Yeah.
And that's just basically, you have to look at what is possible with electronics. And the main thing this year, I spent probably a good 6 weeks putting the LED screen on the front of him. Because that caused so many problems.
I guess I'm saying how important is it to be unique, or how important does it really matter?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, everyone kind of copies
Yeah.
when they start off.
From somewhere.
And then they try to make it their own in the end. Like my silk routine, the idea came from Chuck Fain, and then I've just kind of changed it around a bit.
Yeah. You make it your own.
Yeah. But you know, I put music to it and I do some different moves. But if you look at it, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's kind of like Chuck Fain's routine with a bit jazzed up, you know, and a bit more.
But Chuck Fain doesn't work in Hong Kong,
Yeah,
so
he's
it's
working
not
in
really
Hong Kong,
infringing on.
I don't know where he works actually. I don't know if I think he's retired or something. But yeah. I mean, the magic and juggling are two completely different fields. Yeah.
Yeah.
The magician's always like really secretive about things. And
Yeah.
this mind.
But you're also very good at magic. So you told me you used to learn juggling at university. Where did the magic come from?
I started magic specifically because I wanted to broaden my range of what I could do.
Yeah.
Because people, I'll be like, yeah, can you do some magic? And I'll be like, I don't do any magic, but so I learned some tricks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because you got really good at it.
Okay. I did specifically. Tried to do cups and balls, and I worked on that, and pretty much that's the one big trick I worked on really hard.
Yeah.
And from that, I won an award in the Macau Magic Festival. Yeah, I won that festival. But the everything else I'm not really good at, and I have no real interest in it. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice trick, yeah, but I'm just like, there's no way I want to learn that.
Right.
But I can get away with, a couple of good routines. Don't really need magic, especially for roving. You need one good trick for your roving routine.
Yeah.
You need, like 6 or 7 minutes of magic is all you need.
Yes.
Which can often be one trick.
Because you can do 6 or 7 minutes to this table, and then wander over to another table, do the same 6 or 7 minutes. It's all you need. You don't need.
And like again, it's that thing. The client says they want a magician. They want their guests to be entertained.
Yeah.
They say they want a magician. Okay, but just be like, just take the gig, and figure it out on the night. You'll be fine. That's what I always.
Yeah. So, do you have is your on-stage persona different to your off-stage persona, or is it? Do you turn it up a notch when you go?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you turn it up, especially for the kids' parties. I don't really have a very strong character that would be like someone like at the Bumbling Fool or the whatever. I play more of the overall the show. A lot of the gags are where it goes wrong and I'm the idiot who went wrong for, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it up. And especially with Freddie, I'm the straight man and he's the the clown, so to speak.
Yeah.
He's always messing it up. I'm like, no, Freddie, no, it's not time for it now.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird because I start off with some of the juggling tricks in kind of the bumbling character.
Yeah.
But then you have to kind of
Yeah.
swap
Yeah.
around sometimes because Freddie has to be you have to bounce off
Sure.
someone.
It's quite hard to structure it because you're starting off as the bumbling clown, and then you've got to transition into Freddie being the one who's the funny guy, and you're the straight guy.
Yeah. But overall, it's it's just I just kind of ramp it up for the kids a bit, be a bit of clowny character.
Yeah.
But there's nothing specific. I don't put a funny voice on or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, and my costume is very basic. It's just colourful shorts, colourful shoes, and a vest, colourful vest and a hat.
Yeah.
So nothing specific. Yeah. So yeah, and I see other clowns. It's hard to do a kids party in character. It's easy to do a stage show.
Yes.
If you haven't got that.
Yes.
But it's hard to be in character and be like, listen, can you please sit down?
Exactly. You've got to break your characters.
Always,
if
yeah.
you're going to do
Especially
that.
if you're doing a mime show, yeah.
Yeah. What was your name again?
Yeah. So yeah, that's where, yeah.
Okay, so you've been doing this probably like me for about, well, you've been longer than me if you started when you were, no, you've been doing for over 20 years or so, yeah?
Pretty much.
How do you keep your energy and your enthusiasm going?
Well, in a show, you just do it, yeah? You just, you're there
Yes.
before the show, you just like drain of energy. All right, I'm on, and it's show
Boom!
time. Yeah. But to keep the, you know, it can be tough being a performer because sometimes you can have a lot of downtime
Yeah.
where you're sitting around and, you know, in summer in Hong Kong can be very quiet, so I kind of try to push myself doing some projects.
Right.
But sometimes it can be hard, yeah.
Yeah, it can.
Because you're working for yourself and, you know, I got 2 employees, I see one every day. Yuki, but she's not in today. But yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, I've got to do something, you know, Yuki's in the office, let's get some project started.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is quite an isolated life. I don't really have any employees, so often my whole day I'll talk to no other adult except anybody on a client who'll call me on the phone.
yeah. Yeah, so look, it's another whole side of the thing about being a performer is trying to manage your own time yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can sit around and just watch TV all day if you want.
Yeah.
Um,
And normally for about half of a day that feels great, and then for me at least, and then by the end of the day and I'm sitting watching yet another 3-hour documentary on YouTube,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, what a waste of my life.
exactly. Especially when your kids are working harder, yeah, they're doing homework.
Yeah.
They're at school the whole day. But what I find with the money in this field, which is a really good topic to get into.
Yeah.
So it's very low hours and very good money. Well, it was when I started off. It was insane, and I always tell a story about me and a friend of mine who started off. He was studying law, yeah. So he finished university 2 years after me, I think, and he was on just no money. It was
He's
like
a lawyer.
15,000 is what their starting salary is. He was a lawyer, and I was on getting close to 40 or 50,000 a year,
Yeah.
very quickly, yeah. Because I'm doing shows all the time, and I was doing the stilts, and I was doing my roving magic stuff, and I was like the go-to guy for any event. Be like, oh, he can do a show, he can do your stilt act and everything like that. So very quickly. But then I realised, and very quickly I was on TV as well. I had
Wow.
a spot on one of the big shows in Australia.
Brilliant.
And then I had some other little spots on like some game shows.
Ah, you never mentioned this.
Yeah, I
Wow.
was doing that, and everything was like up and up, and then it just leveled out.
Right.
And it stayed like that forever.
Yeah.
Up until now.
Right.
And I'm talking about as
Same
far
for me.
as-
That might be a
yeah.
truth.
So you get up to that spot and you just think, my God, this is just going to keep going forever. As you know, what's going to happen next year? But it levels out pretty quick, and the amount of income you can make is limited because you're in the service industry and you can only do one job at a time.
Yes.
So maybe you can be really busy and be doing 3 jobs on Saturday and 3 jobs on Sunday. Maybe you get a job during the week or a couple of jobs. You can try to push your price up, but there are limits.
Yeah.
And there's always other competition around the corner. So I found I was on good money very quickly. And
Yeah.
my friend, for the longest time, you know, I was like, man, I'm making all this money.
Yeah, me too.
Trying to buy a house. And then all of a sudden he just jumped.
That's like me and my wife.
Yeah.
That's
Up to
my
like-
wife's a lawyer as well. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. So he, up to like an Everest level.
Because I was
Yeah.
like, I was exactly the same. I remember talking to my friend Ben Swift, who was a lawyer, and he's saying, hey Ben, I'm making 8,000 Singapore dollars a month. And I said, I'm making 10,000.
Yeah,
I'm only
right.
working 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And when I met my wife, I was earning the same as her, and she's a lawyer. But now she's way above me.
There's a-
I'm
and there's-
still on 10,000.
Well, exactly, yeah.
10,000 Singapore
You can never
dollars.
get off that level. Yeah, it's crazy, you know. And I just I was surprised because I remember me and Peter, we both bought houses roughly the same time,
Yeah.
and they were roughly the same value, and we were both penny pinching. And then all of a sudden, I said to him, I remember one year I said, you know, if you come to Hong Kong, you can get paid like $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
And he just said, it's not much money though. And I'm like, oh my god. He's like, you know, I can get $5,000 a day now. And I'm like, what? It's Australian dollars, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So I often thought that, and everyone seems to be the same. You hit this level and you can't get any higher than it. And I think people should understand that, yeah, you can make good money, but that's it. It's never going to get any better.
Yeah.
And to get famous, you have to do something that's just completely different or original, and it has to be ongoing. You
Yeah.
can't just do one trick and get famous for that. Because
Otherwise, you'll be famous for one day, 1 week, 1 month,
Yeah.
then nothing.
yeah, I mean, an example of that would probably be Dave and Diana, who do the costume change, who probably may be an exception to the rule, because
Right.
they do the costume change, and they got famous on America's Got Talent because they really blew everyone's mind with this act that not many people knew about this field of quick change in magic. So they, you know, they got famous, but still the judges criticised them because they only had one trick.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know, if I was a singer, I'd come back and I'd sing a song. I'm doing the same thing every week, but it's a different song every week.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So to get famous, you got to do something that's every time it's different, and you got to be on TV 3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have that kind of exposure. And you know, in juggling, no one has ever heard of a famous juggler.
No.
Unless you're a juggler. In magic, there are famous magicians that you can get to. In Hong Kong, Louis Yarn's probably the most
Yeah.
famous. And Albert Tan from a while ago. But yeah, it is, you know, to get to the next level of money, you've got to get famous, and that is almost impossible. And if you're doing kids' parties. So the only way to do it is to start a business where you're actually employing other people.
Yeah.
You're still stuck in that same industry, you're a service industry.
But you're the boss, you've got other people
Yeah.
working for you.
Yeah, one job is one person. You can't, if I'm selling goods, I can just manufacture 1 million goods and sell them if I could. But yeah, with service industry, there's only one person at a time can work, and
Yeah.
so you try your best. But yeah, that's one thing. If you're starting off in the industry at all, you got to understand you can make good money, but there's a limit you can make, and you'll never be able to break that ceiling. You'll be stuck there. And when I was starting off, that sort of money was really good. 50 grand a year was
Yeah.
good, and it was enough, and I could buy a house with that, and I
Mm.
did. But now, it's not enough.
Mm.
And you could never buy a house in either Melbourne or in Hong Kong, of course.
Yeah.
You just got no chance. You just gotta, you know, make a living. And in Hong Kong, we have an issue where a lot of the main performers are getting old, mid-40s.
Yes.
And I don't know whether I want to be one of those guys that you see around who's like the old crusty clown.
You want to get out of it before it looks embarrassing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Before you have to put all makeup on to cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people, and running the agency, and this is a good point actually I haven't touched on yet, we hear stuff that no one else hears. Clients will call up and be like, yeah, no, we don't want him, he's too old. or
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and it's just like, man, it's brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I remember we had a model and it's like, hey, this girl's too fat, we don't want to, just cancel it. And be like, it's so hard to be like, you know, what they said, this particular girl put on a few kilograms in
Yeah.
a short amount of time between the booking and the job.
Yeah.
To just say to the performer, like, yeah, they cancelled you, and she's like, well, you know, you got to have a reason, like, well, you
Best
can't.
not to ask for it, isn't it?
So we hear about all these things, and I know there's, you know, there's going to be a young guy who does an okay show is probably going to beat an old guy
Yeah.
who's got
I
quite
think so.
a tight show, and so there's a limit to how long you can work. Especially if you're doing physical stuff. Yeah, that's another kettle of fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's tough, and I know a lot of people look at some people who in the industry who are like, man, what have you got savings put behind? Because, you know, if you haven't got a house by now, you know, you have to hit it early, man. You have to get there, get your money, and then get out.
Yeah.
if you're going to be in this field. I mean, I think I'll just keep working as long as I can.
Me too.
But, I understand the reality of it,
Yeah.
that I'm going to get less and less work.
Yeah, I think so. I think me too. I was kind of thinking to myself, I thought, well, maybe when I'm in my 50s, I'll just do birthday parties. Actually, it's happened in my 40s, but that's the way it goes, and that's cool. I've had a good run, and I'm still getting shows.
Yeah, that's exactly,
But all the new skills I'm learning, they're not physical skills. Ventriloquism, stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Because I love performing, and I'd still like to carry on performing for as long as I can, even if I don't make much money. But luckily I'm financially secure already. But it would be tricky if I was only relying on doing physically demanding circus shows, because the bookings, they're going to get less. Someone younger is going to get the bookings eventually.
Yeah, it's true. And my place in Australia, there's a guy who manages the place.
Yeah.
His name is Roscoe. He's a performer, and he went through a period last year where he just said, "Look, no one wants to hire me because I'm too old."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Man, that was really depressing, yeah." But it hit him really hard. But things have picked up a little bit for him. But he's in his 60s,
Right.
and he's an acrobat, and he still does everything the same.
Wow.
But all of a sudden he had a period of I think it was 6 months where he had nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel a bit bad leaving the podcast on such a downer.
we got to have happy. Well, it's just the reality of the industry, and
Do you think there is? I mean, I entered this industry with I didn't even know there was an industry, so I don't know how it's going to pan out, because this I ended up in Singapore and started doing these shows, and now I'm in Hong Kong and I'm still doing these shows, and I don't really see anybody a generation above me. I don't know what happened, whether there was one, and I don't know what's going to happen.
there was before you came to Hong Kong, there was a group of people who used to do a lot of shows. Greg would be one, for instance. Have you met Greg? He used to do a show with Kieran.
Right.
And Kieran's wife was also in the field, and people move on. And you look at Gizmo, he was a performer from a couple of years ago now, and he was one of the main acts in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And he got a better offer and he moved on, and he has really moved on. He's doing much better than if he ever stayed in performing.
So what you're saying, maybe we could say it's a great job, and there's this amazing niche, and you can make a really good living, and no one really is really aware of it. But we're doing shows, we're on stage, we have control over our own act, and there's lots of great stuff, and you can earn a lot of money pretty quickly when you're in your 20s, more than your lawyer friends and your banker friends. But then again, the future is pretty much uncertain. You don't know. You know, if you're a banker, that if you're successful, you're going to earn more and more and more and more.
Yeah, exactly.
But you kind of know in our industry that it's going to end sometime. Yeah,
I mean it.
Or else you might, or maybe, maybe you just completely go under the radar and you'll still be doing shows, but it'll just be birthday parties, and no one else will know about you. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, strange.
But yeah, it does.
So you've got to be prepared to have something.
It does
something
stagnate,
else.
and I think that I'm earning the same money, adjusted for inflation, as I was all those years ago when I started off.
I think me too. Yeah.
So you have to you understand it, have another job, and I know a lot of performers in Melbourne I keep in contact with. You know, they're struggling, and if you always only rely on performing, and I think it's like that song. It's nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of look at it that way, yeah. I know a lot of actors also have that same kind of outlook to it.
Of course it is, yeah. They say that always particularly about female actors, you know. They get all the jobs when they're young, and then as soon as they're like 40, they say, no, we want a younger actress. It's the same problem, I guess.
It's a brutal industry, yeah.
Even our little niche has the same problem.
Yeah. But we have the advantage that we could go on the street. Now, I was on the street when I first came to Hong Kong, and it's good money.
Yeah.
And you know, I understand a lot of performers. I know a lot in Melbourne who still do the street.
Yeah.
Every weekend they're down there. These guys are much better than me. And you know, that's an advantage of being. But you know, you're still scraping.
Yeah.
You're not. You know, I would think they would have doubled or tripled my income, you know, as you work longer in it. But it's not that.
No.
You just don't get it. You're still getting the same money as you were years ago. You know?
Yeah.
A little bit in inflation adjusted. I'm the one who pushed for higher prices in Hong Kong. Yeah, and I know I've rung around the performers here and said, look, we've got to charge more.
Yeah.
And
at least in line with inflation.
Exactly, yeah, and that was my point. Because when I came to Hong Kong, people were charging around 2,000 for a kids show.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, same price. Everyone's charging 2,000.
Yeah. But inflation.
I was pushing. Yeah, exactly. It's just ridiculous. So it's same with Melbourne. Was exactly like that, where $350 a gig was good money, but now people are still working for that price.
Exactly, haven't changed it.
And $350 back then was, a house was $100,000 in a crappy area, but still you got a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just couldn't do anything in Melbourne now for less than $700,000. For a house in a crappy area is $700,000. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I know. I don't want to end on a downer.
Oh, it's a great job. It's an amazing.
Yeah,
job.
that's the thing. You get a lot of time.
And we're still doing it. We're in our mid-40s.
Yeah.
We're still doing it.
Still doing it. But I'm the same. I always thought that 40 is going to be too old, and now I'm thinking 50 is going to be too old.
Yeah, who knows?
It's just going to keep going. Yeah.
Who knows?
You just got to try and get a killer show. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still so much fun. You get a booking and they ask for something different, and you put your thinking cap on and you make a new bit for your act. It's great.
Yeah, and so far so good. Yeah.
So far so good. All right, we'll leave it on that.
Okay, thanks,
Andy
mate.
Comic, thanks, man.
Excellent.
So that's Andy Comic, fantastic. Andy Comic with a C, Comic, I think. Check him out on Google him, look from on YouTube. Fascinating interview. Well, this is Big Ben. You've been listening to Meet the Entertainers on the Big Ben Show. This was the first ever podcast on this show. And stay tuned, we'll put some more out very, very soon. Take care.